Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live, our live event today as part of our Path of a Magdalena program. With this program, each month we explore different qualities of Mary Magdalena. And today we are exploring the quality of peace. Sometimes I just like the way I feel when I say the word peace. So I have joining me today our OG, Lisa Guinan. She's been with us for all the qualities. Um, she explores this every month deeply. And I also have with us Dale. Dale is from New York, also a part of the team that creates this Path of a Magdalena program. So we're all really grateful for the opportunity to dive into this quality of peace today. So I thought we could start off by sharing an example of peace or a story around peace from one of our esteemed panelists.
Hi, Cara. I can start. I can share a little story with everyone. So, what I loved the last 3 months, in April, we had the quality of awareness. And in May, we had the quality of acceptance. And this month, we're on peace. So, it's the third week in May, I was away in the States at the time, and I got the news that my father got a stroke and a brain bleed. So I came back to Ireland, and I love my dad so much. I'm really, really close to him. And it was so devastating for me. And it was a really difficult time. And there was a point where, in the early stages, where I'd wake up in the morning and I'd go, oh no, I'm awake. Because being awake meant I was awake in a world where my father may not live. It was really touch and go. And that was not a world that I wanted to wake up to. So I had difficult times. And then it was actually that morning, one of the mornings I woke up and I felt like that. And I don't normally feel like that. And I came into my meditation, my morning practice. And I was sitting there in my meditation, and suddenly I just had that awareness of how I was resisting what is. I was resisting a world where my father was not well. And in fact, there was nothing I could do to stop it. I was in a world where my father was not well. And I suddenly went, what's causing me all the suffering is the fact that I'm resisting how things are right now. And at that time, we were on the quality of acceptance. So I just let go. Now, I needed to be in that place of presence inside of me through my meditation, because then I had something to let go into, something to fall back into. And it was that presence inside of me. And I just accepted everything that was happening, everything that may happen. And following that, I just moved into a state of peace. And even though it was difficult for me, it's not like that everything just disappeared. It was still hard for me what was going on, but it was all going on with a background of peace. It's like underneath, I knew that everything was going to be okay. Everything was unfolding exactly as it's meant to be. And I don't need to resist it, try to control it, or to make it any different. And inside of that, I just began to move in a very different way than I had done before that. And everything just shifted for me. And inside of that piece, I felt like that anything I needed to meet the day was just going to arise out of that piece. The strength would arise when it needed to come. The wisdom would arise when it needed to come. The resilience would arise as it needed to come, and it did, because I was just in that place of alignment and presence and peace. So I really had that experience of moving into the peace from a place of turmoil, I would say.
Mm.
By the way, my dad is doing really well now, just to say that.
Oh, that's
Oh.
nice.
He's hanging around.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for that story, Lisa. I think for me also, I was really reflecting on how the qualities that we've dealt with for the last few months really flow into each other with the awareness of something coming up and then that acceptance of it. And I found that the more I worked with the acceptance, the more I could move into peace, like you talked about. I go, oh, wow, it's really amazing, once you accept and aren't pushing back against something, how easily the peace can drop in, or I can drop into the peace. And so I realized that when I'm have this inner conflict around something, or something triggers me, and maybe I was thinking about moving into a time of jealousy recently, and being aware of that and saying, oh, wow, there's jealousy here. Where did that come from? And rather than pushing it down and say, well, I don't need to be jealous. What's that all about? I really worked with that and kind of accepted that it was there, and was able to bring that into my heart, let's say, and realize, okay, and then I could move into a place of peace around it, and feel it dissipate at that point, once I was able to not be trying to resist that it was there. And I think for me, not that these things give me peace, but they are kind of representations of peace. So to help me go back into my own inner peace often, and to resonate with the frequency. And so certain music will do that for me. It's that, and I can feel internally just moving, maybe especially moving music that moves me into my heart. And being out in nature is also something that is allows me to be in a more peaceful state of being. So moving into my heart with breathing, with nature, with music are all things that it's not really relying on outside things, but it's a way to bring my inner state into that sense of peace.
Mm. Yeah, I can really relate to peace as an internal state of being. So it doesn't always feel that way to me. Sometimes it feels like external circumstances are causing something in me, or causing chaos, or causing some type of, disharmony within me. But I really, I have experienced peace as this really strong grounding internal state. And actually, I think of like a little baby that's just born, if it's not crying, like you can feel that natural state from a baby. It emanates like this force field of peace, and it pulls me in. I'm like, oh, I want that. But I think we can see that, and so many of these qualities of Mary Magdalena we see in children, as a representation for us. But I think peace is one of those. And for me, what takes me out of that internal state is not, I was thinking about this morning, is not being present. So I was sitting down to meditate this morning, and there's kind of a lot going on in the US right now, in terms of politics, and just a lot. And I'm sitting down and I'm ready for my meditation. I'm going to be talking about peace today, and I'm all ready to dive into peace. And then my mind is going a mile a minute. What if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? What if I live here? What if I live here? What's that going to mean for this? And that is a state of chaos. But when I could bring it back to this very moment that I was in, I was really okay. And that is for me a state of peace. But what takes me out in particular is not being in the moment and thinking about a whole bunch of things that I have no control over. that is that is something for me that I've become aware of. And also, as Dale shared, the real, I love being in nature. And I think everyone probably loves, like, being in nature. I live in Hawaii, so we have like some of the most beautiful beaches on the planet, combined with these fantastic mountain ranges. And it's like a nature paradise, a nature's paradise. And so what I find is I just want to be outside all the time. Like, whenever I have a free moment, I want to hike or be by the ocean or watch the sunset. Oh, watching the sunset, it just does something to me. And for me, what I understand now is that doesn't cause peace in me. That reminds me that I am peace. So nature for me is that reflection of peace that I am. And when I'm in it, I can click into it. So yeah, I'm beginning to understand peace as this internal state. And it's important for me to become aware of what takes me out of it, which is not being in the moment. And sometimes, y'all, I just want to highlight that it's not just, I don't just go into nature and it disappears. Like sometimes there's some work to be done, and I don't bypass that either. That's a key for me. I'm not just going to be like, oh no, I'm really happy if I'm not. I'm really peaceful if I feel the chaos. And in Magdalena Healing, we really work with tools to shift and transmute energies.
Yeah, I find the same in nature, Cara, Dale. And it's for me, it's like that. The stillness in nature helps me to find my way home. It really does. And I really believe that it's because nature doesn't have that ego that we have, that free will to resist and all those other things that we do. And I always consider it like we do this as well in the Magdalena program, how we have our electromagnetic field and whatever. If I'm emanating peace right now, that like we're not separate being, we're not an island. And the people I come in contact with can begin to find the peace inside themselves through the law of resonance. And for me, nature is always in that place of presence, like you said, and stillness. And it's like I can also resonate with that. It's like my energetic field when I'm in nature can connect into the expansiveness of nature. And for me, I love going to the Burren. It's like really untouched part of nature here in Ireland. It's beautiful. And it's very and you can go there and never see a person. And I just so feel it there. It's like I just open my energy field as if I'm breathing and I just allow myself to like breathe it in and finding that resonance inside me of stillness and peace. It's so beautiful. I'm so grateful that we have nature, that it exists.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fortunate to have a stream that runs through our property, and going down there and listening to the water and kind of observing how it can flow. There are big rocks and it just flows around or over or under it. It finds a way peacefully to go on. And so I think nature's a good teacher of how to step into the qualities, especially a peaceful quality.
Yeah, and exactly, even as you're saying, Dale, about that thing that you observe in the stream about the water always finding a way round. That's the kind of
Mhm.
things that that's why I see nature as my educator and teacher, because it shows me things like that all the time as well. If that's what I maybe need to know at that time. I really notice that in nature, that there's always a way, no matter what stones are in the way or what's around the corner, there's always a way to flow around and through and with things. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and I think
special.
that pulls in so beautifully to this kind of trilogy of qualities we've been looking at: acceptance, awareness, peace. I think when we think of nature and just the stream Dale was sharing, it's all of those things. So they do go together
Yeah.
in a way that can really support us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So for me, it's important when I get pulled out of that sense of peace. And as you said, Kara, there's so much going on. And if we're connected or choose not to connect, but on the other hand, it's hard to avoid what's happening in our world. And if that's pulling me out of that peaceful state, then it's really important for me to go to the stream or listen to some music so that I come back into that sense of peace. So like what Lisa said, then I can emanate that and others hopefully will also resonate with that and move into a more peaceful state.
Yeah. And the other thing you mentioned, Cara, I think maybe you spoke did about music. I find that as well. There's certain kinds of music that will just really bring me into my heart, and again, I can just connect in with the whole thing with the music, and it just brings me back into myself again. Find that such a good way to find that peace, to help direct myself into finding that peace inside again.
Yeah, I think you know, one of my, I think some of I like this term justice warriors. I don't know if I'm supposed to use the term warrior, but I love it. And so Martin Luther King is certainly like one of my people that I look up to in terms of who I want to be more like and for guidance. And I always think of this quote, be the peace you wish to see in the world.
Mm,
And I think if we look around the world in terms of the news and the newspaper, we see a lot of war. It's like the exact opposite of peace. And it's so easy for me to get pulled into right and wrong and good and bad. And this shouldn't be happening or this should be happening. And I feel quite righteous around it. I don't, like I feel like I'm right in terms of my opinions. But the only thing that pulls me out of that is that thought of be the peace you wish to see in the world. I don't want to contribute more to the war and the hate. And for me, peace is the way to do that. And I want to say it's not always easy for me. Sometimes it is a challenge because when I see certain things or hear certain things, or especially when I see people getting harmed, it's like, how can I be a different state? And what I go to is, well, I don't want to contribute to more hate. And that doesn't mean I'm not in action. I just want to be clear. That doesn't mean I just sit back and I'm like, oh, I'm peaceful. That's not it. But it's how I show up or how I do things or the energy with which I approach something. And that for me is what makes the difference with peace. And I think that's the possibility with peace.
yeah, I think, I suppose once we know that how we are in our energy field does affect people around us, it's for me, I can't always make a difference in some situations that are happening around the world, Can't, but it's like my little piece, my little piece, right? But the little piece of life that I interact with, the little piece of the world that I go out and I meet every day, I can make a difference there. I can. And I do believe that we have like a domino effect, or like we say, like a virus is contagious and we give that to each other. But I do also believe that an energetic state can be contagious in a really good way, that maybe my piece can touch some people and then it can flow like a domino. And maybe we can have more impact than we ever will think or know. I mean, who knows? But at least it's somewhere where we can take action and feels good. And whatever benefits come from it then are bonus, I suppose.
Yeah.
I would agree with Tara. Sometimes it's not always easy to accept what's out there and to be able to respond more than react to things, so that and the response can be in a peaceful way, I think. So
Yeah.
really appreciate Tara your sharing on that. But it's not always easy to get to that state.
That's our work, isn't it?
It is
It's
our
like
work.
that's even in the Magdalena program. It's always when we're out of alignment in reaction, we know how to do the work, isn't it? It's do the work, shift, do the work, and shift. It's like we're constantly playing that game, isn't it?
For sure.
I love this concept, Lisa, of everybody doing a piece. It's like if we think
Yeah.
of a whole puzzle, it feels impossible to do all the pieces. But if we can consider ourselves one piece of the piece puzzle, can we do that?
Yeah.
And I think we can. I think we can. And for me, like, it's just because in the moments it gets kind of sticky. But if I can think of the why I'm doing it, like for me, it really is like, what do I want to see in the world? I want to be who I want the world to be. And so thinking of that why in those moments is helpful for me too.
And it's helpful for me to know that there's a community of us involved in working through and embodying these qualities, and particularly this quality of peace, that we can share, that we can talk about it, we can share how we can arrive at more peace for ourselves. And the community is such a powerful, and then if there's a community of peacekeepers, let's say, then it feels like, yes, we can make a difference. So our individual pieces joining together for the whole puzzle.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So this always shocks me, but we are at time. I want to thank everyone for watching. I offer you to put one word in the chat that's not peace, or you can put peace in, but really just your takeaway that you want to remember about this quality of peace. What would serve you moving forward and what would serve others? It doesn't have to be one word, okay? It can be a few words. But thank you all so much for joining us today. We're really grateful to be on this journey of peace and the other Magdalena qualities with each and every one of you.